Hello and welcome to Stephanie B Creativity. And today I am going to make a confession. I am a cheater, and I totally own that I am a cheater. I wanted a temperature scarf. I wanted to do this project. I started thinking about it back on January 1st, 2023, and I have a temperature scarf. So that's not the cheating part itself. I intended to do this all year long. But then I realized that if I wanted to do this on my knitting machine would be completely out of commission for the entire year. I had projects I wanted to do. So instead, I waited until the last week of December. I have a weather station at my house. My husband loves to do weathery stuff. And so I went through and collected all of the data for the entire year during the last week of December. So I had all of the high temperatures and I went through and dropped them into a spreadsheet with just the date and the high temperature. Then I did a thing called conditional format rules. And you can go in and say, a value between 20 and 41 is white. A value between 41 and 51 is blue. And you choose your values and put your colors in. By doing that, it automatically threw the colors into the spreadsheet to condense all of it down onto one page. So this is 365 days all on one page. But I was able to get a picture of what my scarf was going to look like. So each row is one day of the year. I just knit it all in one day. I cheated the project in that I waited to the end of the year and just made it. But look at this. Isn't it cool? Okay, now I'm going to show you how I knit this together. It's super easy, straightforward, straight knitting. It's just color changing, and you can do this. So let's go. A year in a day. I am using yarn from my stash. I found the yarn first, then did the spreadsheet, put it all together. I did cast on with waste yarn at the beginning and cast off with waste yarn at the end. I forgot to put my zip strip in. So after you cast on, put a single strand of yarn that goes all the way around. It will make removing your waste yarn so much easier. But now it is just going to be doing rounds, one round per day on the spreadsheet. Now, having the spreadsheet done in advance like this, I knew if I needed to do three rounds of something and then change to another color and then do 2 rounds of something, 15 rounds of something, whatever I needed, because I had it all in the spreadsheet like this, it made it so slick. This project is something anybody can do. If you can crank the handle, you can do this. Changing colors is not hard. I left my balls of yarn attached and would just lift them up and put them into the yarn feeder as I needed them. And in a little bit here, I'll show you an up close, slowed down version of switching the yarn. But for now, just know I am bringing it up, putting it under the working hook, and dropping the other one after that first hook. So I'm overlapping my yarn on the first stitch around. Now, that may or may not be the way you want to do it. It's okay. When I get to the finishing stage, I'm going to be turning this all inside out and going through and tying off all of my loose ends. You'll find that some places, if you have a long stretch of yarn, you're going to want to cut it and reattach, tie it off on both ends. Otherwise, you're going to end up with the yarn pulling and bunching up along your seam edge. I chose to put my seam edge on the actual edge instead of rolling it over and having it go down the center of the back. You can figure it out whatever way works for you. I love how this project turned out. It makes me so happy. And didn't my husband look so cute wearing that scarf at the beginning in that thumbnail? Yeah, he's such a sweetie. I did keep track on the actual spreadsheet. I scribbled off each of the color blocks as I was doing them so that I could pretty much stay on track. I think I went off a little bit when I forgot to count my first round. So I I will admit my scarf is not perfect. I have a couple days in there that have ex an extra round. So I ended up with 369. So there's like 4 days that had some extra rounds, but it doesn't affect it. Nobody's going to know unless I tell you. So here's how I do that color change. I take my old color, drop it down to the inside. I pick up the new color and bring it around the front of the hook. So that way I can do my do my rounds and then change the colors. So drop it down to the inside, pick up the new color and put it on the yarn guide and continue going. It's easy to keep the yarn out of the way. You just have to pay attention. Keep that yarn that you're not working on back out of the way. Super easy. This is a fun project, and you could do this with kids. You could do it with anybody that can turn the handle. So go for it and have fun. I ran about 7 or 8 rounds with black and then dropped the whole project off of the knitting machine. I turned it inside out and I am working my way all the way down the length of this scarf and making sure that all of my pieces of yarn are tied off. They're either connected to the next couple rows. If it was just 1 or 2 rows, I didn't cut the yarn. If it's, a long piece of yarn that's stringing up, say I did a green and it was, 20 rounds before I did green again, I'm cutting that yarn and tying it off on both edges and then trimming them off. And I do that for the whole length of the scarf. Super easy. Just keep going. So see, tying them off. I'm snugging them down just a little bit before I tie, just to make sure that it is pulling the gaps closed. You can end up with a little bit of gapping. And so you want to snug your yarn down and just make it look all finished. I love how this project turned out. It is so soft and so squishy, and a double-sided scarf is absolutely my favorite project. Let's get these ends finished off. I'm doing a single crochet bind off on these ends. I am taking my hook, I'm picking up my stitch on the front, picking up my stitch on the back, pulling the yarn through, and then wrapping over and pulling the yarn through. That's all it is. Super easy. Use whatever size crochet hook makes you happy. I use usually a 4 millimeter or a 4.5 millimeter. I've done it with a 3.5. It's no big deal. You can do it with a 5 if you want. It makes a beautiful finished edge doing that single crochet. And if you want to add fringe to your scarf, go for it and add the fringe. This single crochet edge makes it super easy to attach your fringe if you want to do it. I had to go through and cut on this yarn because I forgot that zip strip. So the waste yarn here, I ended up having to kind of pick it out a little bit and then I cut my yarn to make it easier to pull. Look at this. Isn't it great? beautiful finished edge, and 300 and well, 69, but 365 days of temperature changes. And it's really interesting to see how your year in temperature goes because you kind of forget sometimes that you had these big blocks of lower temperatures or big blocks of higher temperatures, or you had that surprise high temperature in the middle of the cold time of the year. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, click that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video with your friends, and make sure to do something creative and take care of yourself. You're worth it. So let's get on with our next year and all the new projects.